Luck has run out for 8,600 Maple Finance MPL token holders. On July 3, 2025, $41 million worth of tokens initially allocated for them were redirected to the Maple Treasury through what I see as a controversial governance vote. Some in the community might even call it a rug. Since then, MPL's value has collapsed as the token lost its utility, was delisted from most exchanges, and liquidity dried up on decentralized pools. Was this fair? Let's break down what really happened. One holder lost the ability to redeem nearly $200,000. Many others claim losses exceeding $100,000. Countless more have lost tens of thousands. Here's how this unfolded. On April 30th, when the MPL to syrup migration officially ended, the price of syrup was 15 cents. The migration ratio was 100 syrup for one MPL token. One affected holder still has 7,000 MPL tokens, which would have been worth 700,000 syrup tokens. That's roughly $100,000 at the cutoff date, or around $300,000 at today's syrup price, and there are many others like him. At the time of this recording, there are 8,662 wallets still holding MPL. This is how it all began. In November 2024, Maple launched the syrup token and allowed MPL holders to migrate at a 1-to-100 ratio. The initial promise seemed clear. Holders would have ample time to convert. Nowhere did they announce a hard cutoff, not in their tweets, not in their Gitbook. I was active in the crypto space during that time. Bitcoin was hitting all-time highs and alts were surging. Yet I never saw anything about this migration. If it was mentioned, it was buried among their thousands of other posts. Then things changed. On December 16th, 2024, a governance proposal called MIP-011 introduced a final migration deadline of April 30th, 2025. Only 28 wallets voted on this proposal. Just 28 wallets made a decision impacting thousands of holders. Of these votes, the top 3 whales controlled over 54% of the voting power. On the same day, Maple posted a tweet announcing that the migration would end on April 30th. That tweet had only 151 likes and 23 comments. Why impose a deadline at all? Many believe the answer lies in the tens of millions of dollars tied up in unconverted MPL. They posted a link to the MIP-011 discussion, but it only received about 1,100 views. Community concerns were raised about smaller wallets, roughly 8,500 of them, that hadn't converted due to high gas fees. Despite these concerns, no action was taken. When April 30th arrived, the migration closed, leaving MPL holders locked out, utility stripped from the token, MPL delisted from exchanges, and liquidity leaving from decentralized exchanges. Right now, one relatively decent way to swap MPL is Uniswap, which has around 7 ETH left in the pool. That's $25,000. You could believe MPL still has some value, because CoinGecko says it still has an FDV of $6+ million. But don't get confused. That's just because the 8,600 remaining MPL holders don't even know about the migration. Let's get back on track. Maple's Twitter account has over 6,100 posts. On May 9th, they initiated a discussion about reopening migrations. That discussion got 3,900 views. On Snapshot, the platform designed to hold the vote on, it's even less, 122 views. The proposal itself received 56 votes, with 90.69% in favor. Once again, the top 3 whales accounted for over half the voting power. Those 3 whales effectively determined that the final extension would last only 48 hours, and only syrup holders could vote on MIP-017, meaning those who stood to gain the most from MPL holders being locked out were the ones making the decision. The issue isn't just low voter turnout or whale dominance. The deeper problem is that a cutoff didn't need to exist, in my opinion. Syrup has no maximum supply cap. Allocating more syrup for migration would not have interfered with the project's other plans. Many believe the deadline was a financial decision, because unclaimed MPL value would ultimately be absorbed by Maple. And this leads us to what I see as the smoking gun. On July 3rd, 2025, MapleDAO executed a transaction minting 76 million syrup tokens, valued at $42 million at that time, into the Maple Treasury wallet, while burning the exact same amount of the syrup from the migration contract. the syrup that was supposed to go the 8,600 remaining MPL holders. Instead of leaving the migrator open, Maple burned the leftover syrup and minted the same amount into their syrup strategic fund. At that time, the syrup was worth $0.5395 times 76,124,987. That's 41,069,430. In my opinion, this looks like a governance-powered rug. MPL holders couldn't vote on these deadlines. Syrup holders, who directly benefited from the value of unclaimed MPL, voted to close the door. As a result, Maple now controls $42 million worth of syrup tokens that were allocated for MPL conversion but remained unclaimed. Let's be clear. Since syrup has no supply cap, there's no technical reason to enforce a hard migration deadline. To be fair, at the time of MIP 017, the value of unconverted MPL in syrup was around $26 million. But the principle remains: Maple's DAO took over the remaining value instead of ensuring all holders could convert. I contacted Maple directly and asked if they would reopen the migration. Their answer was no, stating that the community considers the process complete. But which community? 84 voters out of thousands of holders, 3 whales with over 50% of the voting power? That doesn't feel like decentralization. To me, it feels like governance used as a tool to confiscate value from the retail investor, the small guy. If you're one of the 8,600 MPL holders who lost the value of your investment, how do you feel about this? Governance is supposed to protect communities, not create loopholes to seize funds. Tell me in the comments, did you convert in time? Are you one of the 8,600 wallets left with worthless MPL? What's your perspective on this? I personally lost $5,000, but this is bigger than me. This is about transparency and fairness in DeFi. Share this video, spread the word. Let's hold Maple accountable. Here's the bottom line. First, in my opinion, there was no valid reason for a conversion deadline. They frame it as a community decision. But in the end, the team phrased the proposals, and in both votes, 3 wallets held 54% voting power. Second, Maple's communication failed. If it had been effective, 8,600 people wouldn't have missed the migration. I was curious to see how many people actually converted their tokens with their migrator. 69 people redeemed, migrated, and staked. Yes, that was an option. 3,081 people simply migrated from their DeFi wallets, and 4,406 wallets migrated and staked. So, in total, 7,556 wallets converted their tokens. The migrator contract has 11,701 total transactions recorded, but not all of them represent a wallet migration, while 8,662 were left holding the bag. Talk about the syrup token migration largely complete. At the time Maple moved the remaining syrup into the SSF, the value taken from those 8,600 holders was $41 million. Today, it's about $32 million. How very convenient, since the Maple Treasury holds around $36 million total as of today. Wonder why they would consider this the final option? Third, the DAO votes were controlled by a handful of large players. MIP 011 had 28 voters. MIP 017 had 56. In both cases, 3 whales decided the outcome for thousands of wallets, including 8,600 that couldn't even vote for MIP 017. Fourth, they can at any time re-enable the migration contract, if they wanted to, but since they burned the syrup tokens meant for the rest of us and minted the same amount to their treasury on July 3rd, they say the topic is closed by holders' vote. Specifically, when I mentioned that the team imposed the phrasing with the deadline, not the holders, they said, "I appreciate your input." That said, the discussion around the temporary reopening proposal, they mean the one open for 48 hours in May, showed that the token holders considered that the final option. Token holders considered the proposal in full, including the deadline language in it. So I'd say that's what the final decision is. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't consider this. But had it been opened indefinitely to allow the rest of the 8,662 people to convert, what would have they voted for? We'll never know, because that was never on the table from the team. Not in the form of a proposal to vote on. Here are all the proposals by Maple Finance. Just for reference, so one has to wonder, with 52,000 followers on Twitter and 4,600 members in Telegram, is this communication considered effective? Everyone can judge for themselves, but the fact is, in total, 7,556 wallets converted their tokens. while 8,662 are still holding the bag. And also, one has to wonder, is the sudden surge in syrup price also due to locking out 8,662 people out of migrating their MPL to syrup? Now, why do I say MPL holders have effectively lost everything? Well, because MPL token effectively lost all utility, not being used for staking anymore, it has been delisted from most exchanges, liquidity is gone, and on Uniswap, the 2% depth is just $621. That means you'd only get a fraction of the ETH your MPL tokens are theoretically worth. For example, a bag holder with 7,000 MPL might get $3,200 if they're lucky, with massive price impact, instead of the $300,000 those tokens would represent if migrations were still open. Take a look at this swap. If I were to sell just $100 worth of MPL, the price impact would be negative 2.81%. All information in this video is based on publicly available on-chain data, governance proposals, and community discussions. This video represents my personal interpretation and opinion, not financial or legal advice. Viewers should verify the facts independently. I've linked everything I've mentioned in the description below. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments if I've missed anything. I leave you with a compilation of screenshots from Maple Telegram of MPL holders begging to get the ability to convert back. They gave all the same answer they gave me.